Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Motor Mouth and Wild Bill Winters. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, along with former New York Giants offensive lineman Bill Winters. Bill, glad to have you back on the program.
Nice to be here.
All right, well, let's talk about your sport of specialty, and that's the National Football League. You have some information about the NFLPA collective bargaining agreement. What is your take on that?
Okay, well, this is cutting-edge stuff. Not a lot of people know about it. And the reason is my sources deal with the agents all day long, so some of this stuff is not even really available to the general public. So I'll basically tell you what's going on. 60% of the league plays from the minimum salary of $490,000 a year. So basically, with this new collective agreement, we're basically going up about $130,000 per player, and they're going to vote for a 17th game. All right, so in that 17, they pay these guys over 20 weeks. The 17 games checks are in the past the 16 games. That'll be 17 games. Okay, so that's kind of interesting the way they structured it. So I'll just go over some of the highlights. The back end of the agreement makes rookie pay somewhere around $1 million a year. Okay, it's a no-brainer for about 1,500 of the athletes that are going to be playing in the National Football League. The high-paying athletes are not making out with we're not making out with a huge increase. There's a TV kicker deal. It's an accelerator that will boost the deal even more when a new TV contract is signed in 2 years. Okay, that's huge. Okay, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. But the practice squad's going to go up. The practice squad pay is going to go up to $10,000 a week from $7,000 a week. They're going to have a 53-man roster. It's going to go to a 55 roster. All right, and the practice squad is going to go from 10 to 12. Okay. Now, this deal is kind of complicated, so I can get into it a little bit like this. 40% of the annual revenue in 2020, plus around another $100 million in new player costs above the current collective bargaining agreement for 2020. So there's a guaranteed 48% share of revenue in 2021, with the ability to increase the percentage to 48.5 share through a media kicker, which is that TV accelerator, which they're working on right now for 2022. So they're trying to get the players to sign this contract now because of the heck of the increase, and I don't think the players are going to squabble. All right, so there's a projected increase of around $5 billion to the players during the course of the new 10-year deal. Okay. So 100K salaries increase in 2020 from rookie minimums. All right, another 50K increase in 2021, and then a 40K increase each year afterwards. All right, at least 90,000 increase in 2020 for other minimum salary players. 80K to 105 increase in 2021, and then a 45K increase each year. Basically, what you're looking at is player salary is going to go up significantly from that 47.5 share of the revenue they have now to 48, which will give them like an extra $6 billion that the owners are going to make, and they'll wind up probably cutting the check for about $1 billion for the current players. So that's huge. Okay. And there's a lot of other things involved in that, but I think that's basically what you need to look at. There'll be a pension increase of 10%, 401k matching contribution increase to 30K. So this is, the players are getting a nice bump up. Also, retroactive increase to $550 a month for all pre-2012 vested veterans. That means that they played 4 years in the league. The first game in their fourth year, they're vested, which means they're going to get a pension of $550 a month. And a lot of other things. But that's basically the deal, and they'll pay these guys over 20 weeks this new money.
What have you heard
so
about?
Your average salary is going to go up to about $710,000.
What have you heard about medical benefits? What have you heard about medical benefits and things like that? I know that's one of the sticking points in the past of how players will be taken care of, which is as a result of previous lawsuits. Do you foresee any of this becoming an issue down the road, or are they going to take care of their players a lot better than they have in the past?
They're going to take a lot. I think they're going to start working on taking care of the players a little bit better than they have in the past. Let me take a look here. Creation of a new network of hospitals in each team city for former players to receive no-cost physicals, preventative care, mental health counseling, and outpatient orthopedic services. Coverage of common services to be phased in during the course of the deal. The drug policy narrows the testing window for THC from 4 months to 2 weeks at the start of training camp. Reduces the penalties to players who test positive for weed. Limiting any game suspension strictly for positive results. Reduces the number of players subject to testing for weed. And also increases the nanogram limit from 35 to 150. So there's a lot of things in there where they're kind of the owners are notorious for getting these players money back after they test positive for THC or marijuana. So they're kind of lighting the load a little bit. But the owners really want this accelerated TV deal done, and they actually really want that 17th game because they're going to make a lot of money, and so that's why they're willing to share some of that $6 billion, with increase of salaries up to about $130,000. So you're going to go from $490 up to about $710. All right, they're going to get paid over 20 weeks, and then their 17-game paycheck. And here's another thing that I kind of liked. The active roster is going to go from 53 to 55. The developmental roster is going to go from 10 to 12. That means there's 120 new jobs. They're also going to, in a bye week, like the 49ers, when they had a bye week, they didn't get paid anything. This time they're going to get $250,000 per player for that week out because remember they're expanding the playoffs.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
And so that's about it. Pretty good deal, especially for the majority of the players in the league that are making the $490 a year.
So
they got a chance to get a significant increase in pay.
Let me touch on a couple of key points. Number one, they eliminate a preseason game, which is good. I think it's time to reduce it to 3. Number two, I think having the 17th game opens up the opportunity to have another international game, so even teams like the Green Bay Packers will be forced to play either overseas or in Mexico, and we all know what a cash cow that potentially could be anyways, Bill. I mean, you're not going to get the Packers to cough up a game at Lambeau. We both know that. But as long as you've got that extra football game somewhere else, then there's no question that the international benefit can only help the league out immensely.
Yep, no argument there, Scott. It's just a significant increase for most of the guys in the league. The real big players, the J.J. Watts and the Aaron Rodgers and those types of guys, they're going to stick to the old deal that they had already with their superpower agents. But the 60% of the league is getting a nice increase. When you look at a salary going up from $490 to $710, that's huge for most of the league. When you're looking at developmental roster guys, creating another 120 jobs and the pay going up to $10,000, that's solid for everybody. So they're getting a bigger piece of the pie. So kind of like the deal. I just hope they do something for the older players.
With that said, Bill, how do you think it affects the XFL? I mean, I think there's enough players to even for the XFL anyhow, but at least a lot of other guys still have more opportunities in the NFL. I don't think it personally affects the XFL that much.
Well, this is kind of interesting.
Sure.
What's driving all of this is the gambling.
Okay.
They're making so much money that this is huge as far as the owners not feeling like they're giving up much of their pie because of the increase in revenues due to that. Fantasy is just now, DraftKings is going to do the fantasy. for the XFL, and they're coming out this week with it, which I think is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so their ratings pretty much stayed the same. They dropped off just a little bit, but not much. They're very happy with a 20,000 average per game, and I just think that this is going to only help the XFL, moving forward. I don't think that the NFL is really going to do any more than it's doing now with their practice rosters. So I just think that the TV people are going to sit back and they're judging one thing right now: how the XFL compares to March Madness, because that starts, I think, in 11 days with the selection of the teams. So they just want to see how the XFL fares during the month of March before they, wind up giving the XFL some really good TV money for next year.
So, Bill, my question to you is this, okay? You have 120 more jobs, okay, in the NFL. Do you feel that there's enough players, despite the fact you have 120 more NFL jobs, to make sure the XFL has plenty of talent to play with?
Yeah, and I still think that they may move towards getting college seniors to play next year. So, yeah, the answer is yes. There's enough players to go around.
Because then that leads me.
They're going to have to sign a lot of these players to futures contracts now anymore either.
And that leads in my next question, since you answered the last one very well. I know it's inevitable that the XFL does have to go ahead and expand in order to bring the ratings up the more markets you get in. So do you think that this can only benefit them even in that sense as well, Bill?
Yes. I think, you're looking at markets like Chicago, Orlando, San Jose, San Antonio, and San Diego, where they'll probably expand to those. But I don't think they're going to do it, wholesale really quickly. I think they do it really gradually over time. They know they can expand for 3 years before they add 2 teams. So we'll see. A lot of it's a work in progress based on numbers, ratings, and how big how big the players ratify this new agreement and how well it does with fantasy. But right now, the bookies and the gambling in Vegas love the XFL.
Beautiful.
The ratings are better than the NBA. And the NBA's in trouble. They got some ratings problems.
Oh, yeah.
They're actually thinking about changing their playoff format a little bit.
Well, when you got ratings problems, Bill, you know full well that anybody panics and then you start tinkering with things like that, then you know there are some issues. You nailed that one dead on. Okay, so let's change gears, Bill, and we're going to go to the other team that resides in Milwaukee. We're not talking about the Bucks, but we're going to talk about the Milwaukee Brewers today. Christian Yelich right now is reportedly on the verge of getting a 9-year deal worth $215 million that will take him to 2028. There's a mutual option for 2029, and the Brewers are, about to commit more than $200 million, in the declining years for a contract that's set to expire by the age of 37. Now, let's go ahead and look at a little bit of history, if I may, Bill. Ryan Braun obviously was paid a lot of money, and the Brewers had to choose between Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder, and Braun had 2 contract extensions, and his last one was an 8-year deal that got him my $105 million, and their contract comes off the books at the end of 2020. And, of course, amidst the steroids controversy. So the Brewers invested over $100 million in Ryan Braun. So what are your thoughts about the Brewers locking in Christian Yelich for a long period of time, knowing full well, Bill, that these long term deals could backfire, like Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera, just to name a few. And I'm not talking about hurlers. I'm talking about everyday position players. Bill, comment on the Christian Yelich situation. Is it good or bad for the Brewers and their fan base?
Well, I think it's good for their fan base, and they're locking up one of their superstars. It may be bad depending on how old he is and how he produces over the next 10 years. It's a work in progress. So, but I think Milwaukee has to do that to compete with the LA, because it's a smaller market. So, they probably were forced to do that deal to a large degree. But you got probably the best player or one of the best players in the league playing there, so it's good business all around. So I don't see any holes in it, to be honest with you.
Well, and that's fine because
it's a good, solid deal.
Yeah, and I think the thing is the Milwaukee Brewers are not the kind of an organization where they're going to land that big marquee free agent, that wants to go there to play. It's a cold weather climate. It's a small market. But Christian Yelich is a big fish in a little pond. Don't have 9 million media members, so the scrutiny isn't as bad on him as it would be in a mega market. But yet the Brewers are telling him, we're building this franchise around you. He likes it there anyways. And, Lorenzo Cain is not a bad piece, and they can certainly fill in a lot of pieces around him. And I don't know how their farm system is. It can't be that bad. But they do have to send a message to their fan base that they're willing to compete and not rebuild, since this franchise has only been to one World Series in their history, and that was dating back to 1982 when they were a member of the American League.
No argument, Scott, at all. I think the Bucks have the same issue with Giannis in the NBA too. They've got a great team, and they got to go out and lock up their superstar for a long-term deal to make their small market competitive with the larger markets. And some players like playing in smaller markets, big fish in smaller ponds, as we like to say. And they're doing the same thing in the NBA. With Giannis. So, I think it's a good deal overall for the city of Milwaukee.
Well, not only that, Bill, okay, you can get endorsement deals no matter what city you're in. It's not like you have to go to New York or Los Angeles anymore, Bill, or Chicago. You can be in Milwaukee, Houston. It doesn't make any difference where you're at. The endorsement deals are going to find you. You just have to be in a situation where you're hopefully winning and you're the face of that franchise. And again, even they can happen in Canada. So again, what you're saying has a lot of validity to it. But Christian Yelich, I don't care what market you're in, the endorsements will find you, and it doesn't have to be limited to just two places.
Scott, how old is he?
I believe he's 27, Bill.
Well,
it's in his prime of his career.
Not too young, not too old.
Right.
Baseball players, they stay in shape, can play to their 40, and I think their scouting department probably feels comfortable in giving a player like that a 10-year deal where they know that they're going to get a lot for their money. So, I would sit there and go, that's a pretty good deal.
And not only that,
general manager, I'm signing off on it.
Yeah, and not only that, Ryan Braun's been a good player, but I think Christian Yelich is much, much better than Braun anyway, so I don't think the Brewers fans should have a whole lot to worry about. All right, we'll go from Milwaukee over to the television booth where Alex Rodriguez went on record saying about the Houston Astros, you've earned whatever comes your way. Now, he's a member of the media. He gets paid to say who he is. But I guess the one thing, I'm going to echo these words to you, Bill, okay, considering the source, as Alex Rodriguez the type of an individual that should make such a statement like this, knowing full well that his career is marred by the steroids and he cheated as well?
Well, deep down, he's part of the media, but you know me and most of the other guys that are baseball aficionados. I just don't think that this thing is a whole big deal. Right. The media's making it out to be a big deal. That's just my personal opinion, and Alex Rodriguez probably feels the same way. You forget, he was part of the steroid deal. Right. And he was out of baseball for a long time, and people forgive and forget. The fact that he's in the media, people kind of forget that, and here he is chastising the Houston Astros for something he did as a player himself.
Right.
So at the bottom line, I think deep down they're just playing the game within the game with the media, because they're certainly not going to turn around and go against the media like you and I are doing. Right. At least I am in this position. I just think I deal in reality a little bit. Right. I think a lot of the players are on more performance-enhancing drugs than we realize. Right. Maybe not, human growth hormone, but other stuff like speed and bennies and that kind of stuff. Right. Because it's a long-ass season. Let's not lie to you. Right. All right. So I think that in this case, Alex Rodriguez is kind of posturing like a politician. All right. So I think deep down he knows that, he cheated a little bit when he was a player. He was out of baseball. He was able to recover from it. And I just don't think that he thinks it's a big deal, but he's a Yankee. He's got to go with the public, because if he goes against it, he's going to go down in ratings. Well,
that's true. Again, he's treating this business much differently than he has. I mean, let's face it, cheaters aren't going to make it in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Pete Rose will certainly never get in there. I can't ever see that ever happening. I don't see Rodriguez getting in there, and Clemens and Sosa, and and McGuire certainly through steroids, Bonds as well. Whether they get in remains to be seen. But let's stay on I'll stay on focus with Alex Rodriguez. He is a member of the media. Are we coming down on a guy in our profession? Yeah, but obviously he works in a high-profile position where he's paid to provide these opinions. But to think that he would say you've earned whatever comes your way, well, so did you, Alex. But I guess that word called double standard, double jeopardy, being into play takes on an entirely different meaning, doesn't it, Bill?
Yes, that's up there with Bill Clinton. I didn't inhale.
Yeah, right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger on the President's Council for Physical Fitness, and we all know he was a roid raider,
right.
user. So, there's a little bit of hypocrisy in sports.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
There you go. And we'll leave Alex Rodriguez on the "it is what it is" platform. But we'll stay in the state of Texas, though, Bill, over to San Antonio. The San Antonio Spurs, to me, have had one of the best organizations in many, many years, and yet another small market. Greg Popovich had to take a night off for personal reasons. Tim Duncan sat in his seat. Of course, he had Becky Hammond on the sideline and his full allotment of assistant coaches. So what are your thoughts about Tim Duncan's presence behind the Spurs bench, knowing he's a franchise icon?
Well, I think it's a great move. Maybe if Pop retires, who knows? Maybe Tim will get into coaching. If not him, it'll be Becky Hammond. But it may be the both of them moving forward. So it's a great way to keep San Antonio in the public eye. I think it's a good move, and I'm not sure, but I think, didn't Tim one time back in his playing days coach a game or something when Pop got sick or something like that? So they have a little bit of experience in that regard. I don't quite recall, but my gut instinct tells me that he did it once before a long time ago. We probably forgot about it. But yeah, I thought it was a good move. There's nothing wrong with that. And I kind of like the fact that we got Becky Hammond waiting in the wings as well.
Oh, yeah.
She may wind up being the head coach. So that's kind of keeps San Antonio in the limelight.
Well,
you're also getting a heck of a coach.
Well, Becky Hammond, Bill, has coached in the summer league, so it's not like this lady here hasn't been a head coach even in the summer league, as well. So I think what you're saying has a lot of validity. So, Bill, that leads me to my next question, okay? I had this on the Sports Exchange earlier tonight, so I'm going to present you with the same kind of question, all right, about great players becoming great coaches. But right now we're going to stay with the NBA. We'll do baseball perhaps another time just to stay online on the hard court, if I may, all right? I'm going to talk about 4 specific individuals. Bill Russell, I believe, was a player coach for a while when Red Auerbach was there. And, of course, he ended up coaching for Seattle. And he, about a 500 record there and bombed in Sacramento from 87 to 88 in 58 games. So my question to you is this, Bill. Do great players necessarily make great coaches? I think the thing that, for me, I wonder about is, do the egos get in the way of their ability to be successful as communicators when they're holding a clipboard versus when they're running in their sneakers and their shorts on the floor?
I want to answer that with, there's Larry Bird, there's Magic Johnson,
right.
There's a lot of guys that have wound up being coaches. It all starts at the top. I don't think it hurts to have a player that was an NBA player being your coach. It certainly doesn't, it certainly gets the player's attention. It's like anything else. It has to start at the top and flow through the entire organization for the former player to be effective head coach. I don't think any of them would turn into Red Auerbach. But, some of them, like, for example, Bill Walton did an unbelievable job at Golden State. But then again, he had a lot of players. So there's a combination of having a really good
team. You mean
team.
Steve Kerr?
Phil Jackson went to the Knicks and didn't do squat.
Right.
All right. So a lot of it has to do with the players you have and the organization you have, and they're people too. So I don't think that's there's a little bit of an edge as a former player, but I think even in the college ranks, some of these guys hit the wall. And they're mere mortals as well. And you just find out that maybe they're not as good as coaches as people thought they were just because they're a great player.
Yeah.
So every situation is different. But,
yeah. I think the guy that you're referring to.
Doesn't really make that big a deal.
Yeah, I think the guy you're referring to, if I understand correctly, was Steve Kerr. Is that correct? Not Bill Walton?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
No, Yeah, well, Steve Kerr, and then Walton took over for him.
Oh, did? Are you thinking about Luke Walton? You're thinking about Luke Walton. I'm sorry, Bill. Luke Walton.
Yeah, Luke Walton, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no big deal. Okay, so I'm going to mention 4 names, Bill. I'm going to mention just 4 names. I want to stay on point. Magic Johnson had a small run with the Lakers. He was 5-11 with a .313 percentage. Knew that wasn't his game. That's, obviously that was short-lived. Larry Bird, on the other hand, was a very even-keeled demeanor with the Indiana Pacers. And I'm giving you numbers, okay. He was 147-67 with a 687 mark, and he took him to the NBA Finals. And I had a chance to meet Coach Bird, okay, when he was with the Pacers, and I was covering the Pistons regularly. And Larry Bird is the most even-keeled person in the world, and I don't think that superstardom got to his head. And then the other individual I'm referring to is Jason Kidd, who was a sub-500 coach. Now, were egos in play? You know what, Bill? I guess that's just subject to one's person's interpretation. But I also think that Kobe Bryant, and I know it's only hypothetical, could have been a great coach because he's a hard-working, relentless individual. So, therefore, I think Kobe we'll never know anyways, Bill. But when you look at the sum of the whole and the whole of the sum, okay, Bill Russell, sub-5, not great with Seattle. Sacramento, of course, he was probably way too old for that gig anyhow. And, of course, Larry Bird was fine, and Magic Johnson, Jason Kidd. So I guess you're saying, if I'm reading you correctly, Bill, okay, that you feel it's just based on the talent level, or do you think ego takes more of a precedence? I guess that's my question to you.
Oh, I think talent. I think the players are smart enough to leave their egos at the door if they're a head coach.
Do you? Okay. Well, that's good to know. I mean, because a lot of people wonder, in other sports, and again, I want to stay with the NBA tonight, is does ego get in the way? And I guess you're saying it all has more to do with the talent than the ego, which is okay. And you're a former player, so I think you can comment sensibly on that as well. So it's good to hear your point of view on that.
Yep.
Although I think you're right, Becky Hammon's going to be a heck of a coach one day in the league. It's not and I have a feeling it could be, if it's not Duncan, that I think it could be with the Spurs. But I want to talk about Duncan for a moment.
It would definitely be with the Spurs. I don't see it, I really don't see it going anywhere else. They have her in house. She used to play in the WNBA down there. She's good box office. She would be a real good transitional coach when Pop retires, and then maybe Tim Duncan being her assistant or vice versa. It'll all depend on her progression and what and how she develops as a coach.
Yeah, and I like Tim Duncan as a potential head coach, Bill, because from what I understand, he has a pretty even-keeled demeanor, and, he's the face of that franchise. The only thing I wish would have happened, but we'll never know, is I wish Patrick Ewing would have gotten that opportunity to coach in the NBA. I think he would have done well. We'll never know that hypothetical either, Bill, but it's too bad we never saw that one. But I think Duncan could be a good head coach with his even-keeled demeanor, and he's respected at that franchise. But it's good that we're able to talk about that. One other thing we're going to talk about before we get to the promotional stuff is you wanted to talk about Winston Moss, the LA Wildcats, and his daughter as coach. So I'm going to give you the floor on that one, Bill.
Well, one of the things that I noticed with the Alliance of American Football, with the Arizona Hotshots, where they had their, one of the first female football coaches. I forget her name, but I had a chance to talk to her, and a really sharp gal. And the minute you meet with her, you just kind of forget that she's a female. The second thing is that I think in the XFL they've got a female coach now. I forget which franchise. And then also in the NFL, I believe we have a coach that's female with the 49ers. I think one with another team as well. So it hits the diversity package. But it just goes to show you that, if you can coach, you can coach. Nobody really gives a darn about your gender. Egos are left at the door. Genders are left at the door. If somebody's good at their craft, they're good at their craft.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Bill, this is the opportunity of the program to promote what Bill Winters is all about. Go ahead. The floor is yours, Bill.
All right. We can follow me on my Facebook page. Just go to Bill Winters, but the best way to do it is facebook.com/BWinters55, and you can be able to pull it up. I actually posted some nice pictures today on the USFL with the collective bargaining agreement for our discussion on our show.
Right.
You can go to my website, billwinters.biz, and you'll see my book in there that I'd love for you to read. And also, there's a gallery of pictures in there from my old playing days, because I'm one of the few players that played in 3 different leagues for 3 legendary coaches at 3 different positions. And you can also find me on our show on Spotify, iHeart, and Apple. Just go to Motormouth, 2 words, and Wild Bill Winters, and you'll see our episodes. We'd love for you to listen to us and be regular subscribers, because I think we're cutting edge as we move forward in this podcast arena. And last, my Wikipedia page, Bill Winters Football is the quickest way to do that. And then last importantly, my YouTube channel. If you go to my YouTube channel, just type in Bill Winters when you go to the YouTube search engine and put football after it. You'll see a purple circle that comes up with we wear a Nike hat. Hit subscribe and grow with us as we move forward in this arena.
Yeah, Bill, I saw your Facebook page and those pictures, and I got to tell you, it looked really good. I was very impressed with what you did. Job well done. And just so you know, folks, you're listening to the Motormouth of Wild Bill Winters show here in the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. If you want to look for me on Twitter, you can follow us. My personal page is Scoop, SCOOP, with 5 3s, 3 3 3 3 3, count to 5, then you have 3s. But more importantly, also at Tribune South, the @ Tribune South, and of course the South Florida Tribune. Go to www.3wsouthfloridatribune.com. You're going to find Bill Winters even has a profile on there. We have the affiliations columns on there. We also have their contributors columns, and we have the broadcast/podcast section as well. So you can find us. This broadcast, if you can, again, like Bill alluded to, you'll be able to listen to it, subscribe, and more importantly, download it. I know you'll always be able to find good, resourceful information, because Bill and I certainly try to make sure that we provide you with insightful commentary, facts, and everything that you want to know in and out of the sports world as well. So we look forward to continuing to grow our brand. Bill's certainly one of the my original guests here on the network, as well as we've done other things on other networks. And I have so much confidence in our show, Bill, that there's no matter what we talk about, our goal is to make things very interesting, that everybody that tunes in will make sure it's definitely a worthwhile listen to for sure. So meanwhile, we look forward to, and also I want to point out that Bill Winters can be heard on the Sports Exchange here in the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. He is a regular contributor as well. So meanwhile, any closing thoughts here, Bill Winters, before Candy and I head to the West Coast? We'll still be doing broadcasts as well, and be in touch. And we're looking to make sure that we build the platform better than ever. Anything you want to close out the show with, Bill?
Well, I just want to let you know that the topic that we spent most of our time talking about, this collective bargaining agreement, most of the media doesn't even know about it yet. This is inside information from people that I got through, I deal with on a daily basis that work with agents. So they were nice enough to send me this information. So this is stuff that the American public doesn't even know yet, that just came out. So we're kind of scooping it, Scoop.
I'll tell you what. Winters, we might actually make a journalist out of you yet. Not sure how we're going to do it. But you know what?
I get Jimmy Olsen.
I know, but I tell you what, Winters, you're making me nervous, because all of a sudden you're starting to do an awful lot more research, and that's really what this business is all about, is what you research, right, Bill? And I'll tell you what, with all due respect, there are times when I have to coach Bill very hard, but it's only because I really care about the guy and I want to see her grow real bad. He's a very coachable individual. He gives it 110%. I can't ask for much more than that anyhow. But our goal is to make sure, folks, you have the best source of entertainment that you can, regardless of what the subject matter is, because I've always been a firm believer, Bill, that if you can take one thing out of our broadcast and learn, you're a lot further ahead in the time frame that we have allotted, and we look forward to being able to continue to bring that on a consistent basis. So on behalf of Wild Bill Winters, my name is Scott Morgan, Roth the Motor City Madmouth. Thanking you for joining us here tonight on the broadcast, and we look forward to seeing you on the next edition of Motormouth and Wild Bill Winters. And once again, follow all of Bill's platforms and continue to follow ours as well. Good night, everybody.
Good night.